Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you may have seen I have got a guest with me today, and this is Charlotte. Now, Charlotte has gone from being the girl who hid at the back of her class, she was scared to put up her hand, and terrified of admitting who she really was, including her sexuality. After some hardships in her life, she is now a self concept and identity coach who now fully stands in her truth and supports other incredible women to step into their authentic self with confidence. And I can't wait for you to hear how she got there. So, welcome, Charlotte. Hello, how are you?
No, that introduction gave me like proper shivers then. I was like, oh, cheers. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm really excited. Really excited to be on here today.
Good, amazing. I think sometimes as well, when you listen to an introduction about yourself, it's a little bit humbling because you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, is that me? Like, have I really done this? Love it. So, yeah, so obviously you are Charlotte. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm a self-concept and identity coach, which basically is all about who you identify as, what your beliefs are, and kind of unpicking that to understand, is it actually your belief or is it something that society's put on you? In a very kind of brief nutshell, that's basically what I do. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I've kind of got my own story around why I became a self-concept and identity coach, and a big part of that was battling with my sexuality and what that meant and all of the kind of lessons and stuff that I learned from that as well.
I love that so much. And I think that whole concept as well is like, actually, are the beliefs coming from you or are they coming from society? It's like such a huge thing. And I'm very advocate for that because I'm like, screw society. I don't really care like what you say. And like
100%,
just
especially like because
changing.
I'm very spiritual as well. Like I
Mm,
literally in front of me right now, all my crystals. Like
love.
so a lot of society is like, oh God, that's a bit weird, that's a bit woo-woo. But it's like, no,
Mm,
that's what I believe in and that's what I like love. So it's about
yeah.
learning to kind of step into your own power as well and being like, no, this is who I am, this is what I'm interested in, and it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, 100%. You got to do what makes you happy in life. And the thing is, as well, like if we were all the same, like the world would be completely boring. So you got to do what's good for you. So, obviously, let's go back to your childhood and obviously when you were at school, what was that experience like for you?
Oh my God, I hated it. Like, absolutely hated school. Primary school wise, like, I was okay. I was quite shy, like, would never put my hand up in class. Like, every single school report would be the same thing. It'd be like, Charlotte, she applies herself, but she's really quiet. And my mum would sit there and be like, well, I don't know who you've got in this room, but I'll tell you what, it's not like that at home. I was completely different. At home, I was singing, I was dancing, I was being me to a point. Whereas at school, I'd just be a complete shell of myself and completely
Mhm.
shut down. And then that kind of got worse, if you like, in secondary school. I wasn't, the popular kid. I was very much on the outside of friendship groups, and I'll never forget like that feeling of the group that I was kind of in, but kind of on the outside of, where they would go and, do things at the weekend, but I wouldn't be invited. And
Right.
it's just that constant feeling of like, oh, okay, right, I'm kind of on the outside then. I'm not really good enough, if you like, to be included. And that was just a constant theme, like even through college, which was a massive thing for me. Like that, and that's where like I really started to battle with the sexuality side of things. Um, but childhood for me was really, really difficult. Like not from a family standpoint, but just from a trying to fit in, and especially from like a neurodiversity standpoint as well. Like my brain doesn't work in the same way that like a typical brain would if you don't have dyslexia or ADHD, or I haven't got autism, but if we look at someone that's got autism, like their brain
Yeah.
doesn't work the same way. And it wasn't really recognized either when I was at school. So you just felt like the weird one that was just
Mm,
outside quite a lot.
yeah, I completely understand that because I think, like you say, it wasn't really recognized when you had things like dyslexia or,
No.
anything like that. And it's almost a bit like, I guess schools didn't really know how to deal with it as well.
Yeah.
I would say on that sort of level that they didn't know how to deal with some sort of child that, okay, for example, if they like acted up or anything like that in the school, they just say you're naughty.
Yeah, you can just go in bottom set, you're naughty. But then there's also like secondary school, I found myself in the bottom set of maths with the naughty kids. So
Mm,
actually we didn't learn anything because it was just constantly sending those kids out. Whereas hopefully now, I don't know, because I'm not in school anymore, obviously, but hopefully now they would look at it and be like, okay, why is this child acting in this way? What's going on for them? But back then, I'm 29 now, but back then at school 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't like that at all.
No, it really wasn't like that. But I completely like I feel you on the whole childhood element where it's like your childhood at home
Mm,
was amazing, was great, but then when it came to things like school, it wasn't so amazing. Like I always used humor as a barrier, I suppose, for myself. That it was like if people think I was funny, I'd be like the funny fat kid. That was the type of thing that I felt like I had when I was going through school. So I totally relate that you had a good childhood in terms of like, being at home and like your family and everything like that. But school wise and growing up, and I think there's so much pressure as well on kids when they're growing up. Like you've got so many things that are happening in your life where you're like puberty and your hormones and everything like that. You don't know what the hell is happening to you. Like, and it's just so much pressure. You have to be a certain way
mhm.
to basically go anywhere, if that makes sense. Like obviously you say about like popular
Yeah.
kids and stuff like that. So if you weren't like that, then it's like, well, you're
Yeah.
not worthy.
And that's what kind of kicks like, because at home, my mum and dad were going through a divorce. So I was kind of like dealing with that. But then at school, it was like, well, in order for me to fit in, I need to look a certain way and I need to jump
Yeah.
on diet after diet. And then that's what started like this whole thing for since I was 14, I think was when I first went to Slimming World, which that's an issue in itself at 14 years old, but there we go. And I
I've
didn't
been there.
stop. It's ridiculous, right? 14 years old. Like you're still a child at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
I had a dietitian at 10, so
Mad, isn't it? But then
yeah.
that start ingraining in you. Like
Yeah.
the things that you then start to learn and pick up aren't healthy, like things. They're, oh well, you need to look a certain way. Oh well, you can't eat this food, you need to eat this food and
Mm.
bloody sins. And I won't go on to that, but yeah, no. But that carried on until I was like 24.
Yeah.
That was a good portion of my life. And it wasn't until I came out where I was like, I don't need to diet anymore.
Mm.
Because I was just trying to do that in order to be smaller, in order to fit in, because I was trying to fill a void in myself.
Mm.
Whereas now it's like, oh, okay. Like, yes, I go to the gym to look after myself. Yes, I eat like I can't talk.
Nutritional.
Nutritious food, like to look after my own body, but not to be smaller and to fit in.
Yeah. And to punish yourself.
I am. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not to
Yeah.
punish myself.
Yeah, literally. I just did like a whole episode about that on my podcast, actually.
Oh, there we
That
go.
I literally just did a whole podcast recording for talking about that and about like not punishing yourself and like basically like the whole fuck new year, new me
Oh
sort of
God.
scenario. So yeah, we're such on like the same wavelength when it comes to things like that because we've been through it and we've basically come out the other side of it and it's like no, you can still go to the gym, you can still be healthy, enjoy real food, but it's not coming from a place that you need to punish yourself and you think I need to be smaller because of this. So
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
it's all about where it comes from. Like there's this narrative, there's kind of two sides. There's that typical kind of gym narrative of like you need to be smaller, but then
Mm,
there's also, well, more diet culture narrative, but then there's also that other side of like, well, no, you can't want to lose weight and you can't want to go to the gym because if you do, then actually you're just, go into diet culture. And it's like, no, where is this coming from? Like actually, if it's coming from a place of love for who you are
mm.
and you want to do it because you want to be stronger and you want to be fitter, like amazing, go for it. But if it's coming from that place rather than a place of like, I need to do this because I need to be smaller.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's
You'll
where you
get
need to do the internal work. Yeah. Love that, honestly. So
it.
obviously, how did your school life affect your confidence?
Massively. Like it's funny because at the time you don't realize, like when you're there, you don't realize how much it's impacting you and you don't realize why you're doing what you're doing. But as an
Mm.
adult now, especially with, the coaching that I do, I kind of look back and I go, oh my God, I just kind of want to meet little Charlotte and be like, it's okay. You're in
Yeah.
the you are, like it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, like the way that it impacted my confidence was I constantly felt like I wasn't enough, constantly felt like I needed to transform and shift and adapt into who other people wanted me to be, whether that was inside of school or outside of school. And that has a real impact on your confidence to just stand there and be who you are. And I think you can tell the kids, but you can also tell the adults, I think, who have had to deal with that and are either have been on that journey or are going through that journey, because it takes a lot to unpack all of the shit that was put on you at school or put on you as you're growing up as a teenager. It takes a lot to unpack that and be like, okay, I am enough, like as I am.
Mm,
This is why I've, done certain behaviors in adulthood, or like this is why I felt this way at school. So for me, it had a huge impact on my confidence and the way that I did things. Like I loved musical theatre and I did musical theatre at college, but I hid at the back of classes every single week. And I used to piss my dance teacher off. And I used to like, she used to be like, Charlotte, get to the front. And I'm like, I can't do it. And I watch videos back now. I'm like, you can do it.
mm,
But you know what you're doing, but you were so shy, like so painfully shy that you just kept telling yourself that you couldn't do it.
yeah.
And it's frustrating sometimes as an adult because you're like, for God's sake, like you were fine, you were good.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't ever change it because I think had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be who I am now.
exactly.
So,
And
yeah.
everything happens for a reason. That's always something I preach, like massively. And it's the life lessons that you can go with, and you think, right, what can I take from this? And actually, what can I do to change it to make me feel better? And, have the life that actually you want to have. I mean, I totally get about the whole musical theatre thing because I used to do that when I was at school, and I went to college and did musical theatre, but I ended up dropping out.
Mm.
But I absolutely loved doing plays. I loved singing, everything like that. But mine came from a place of I could be someone else and not myself. And
Yeah.
that's where I felt better because I was playing another role, not actually showing my true self. So that was where mine sort of came from rather than being like, because I got leads in the
Mm.
plays and everything like that. So mine wasn't necessarily that I was like hiding behind back. It was because I just stepped into a different role and it felt better and nicer because I'm like, I'm not playing myself.
I totally get that because I did I don't know if you know Our House, the Madness musical.
Yeah, yeah.
So 2019 I did that, which is the last time I was on stage, and I keep saying to myself I need to get back on there. But
Do it.
I played, I need to. That's my next thing. I played the lead in that, and I was terrified, don't get me wrong, but put me in front of 500 people every night to play that character, fine.
Mm,
Me in front of a stage to sing in front of 50 people, absolutely brick it.
yeah,
Because I'm like, oh, I'm just me and you're Bear, aren't you? Whereas, if you're playing a character, and that's the thing, like a lot of women have been playing characters all their life.
yeah.
Especially if you've got things like ADHD or dyslexia, because you're masking constantly. And it's
Hmm.
only when you stop and you go, right, let me take the mask off for a second. Who actually am I really?
Yeah,
That's when the magic happens. And that's when all the work starts to come together. And you can
yeah,
be who
100.
you are for a change, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Literally like 100%. And that's when your magnetism then comes. And that's when
Yeah.
people then like, then you find your own tribe. And then it's like, actually, you think, no, I'm not alone. Like, there are people out there that are like me and stuff like that. So, yeah, I, yeah, literally hand on heart, I was like, I totally agree with all of that you've just said. Um, I feel like I'm talking to myself here. That's
Really
what it
weird,
feels
isn't
like.
it? How we're both in completely different things. But yeah, there's so much similarity.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's probably the same for so many other women out there as well that are probably going through the same thing or, they've been through the same thing when there was a child. Like, I think it's so fascinating to think that obviously probably everyone has had their hardships in terms of the way they look, like their confidence, hiding themselves, like you can't be yourself, your authentic self or anything like that. And I find it rather sad actually that there's this whole society that you have to be like this and you have to be like that when actually no one fits in that at all and everyone is completely different and it breaks my heart that people think that they can't actually be themselves and they have to fit into something else and yeah it's just sad.
It's really sad. And I do think the generations kind of younger than us are given more of an opportunity and more of a chance to be who they are. Because I think society's a hell of a lot more accepting now than it was when we were younger and generations
Yes.
before us. But it is really sad. There's a group of adults that are growing up that have never been able to be themselves
Yeah.
to an extent. And yeah, but it is really sad. But I feel like society is becoming more and more accepting of people now to a point. Don't get me wrong, there's still people that don't accept things, and that's more of an issue for them than it is for anyone else. There's more about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a real sad state of affairs, I guess, if you kind of look at it and go, like, I wish we had the knowledge that we have now
Mm.
when we were younger, because then yeah, things could have been different. But then, like I said earlier, we wouldn't have been who we are now, would we, without that? So
Yeah. Exactly that. Literally. But yeah, no, I do agree with the whole like society is probably more accepting now than probably I say like us millennials,
yeah.
I would say. And I feel like the Gen Z, they are so much more, I say like aware,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they're so much more focused on self-love and
Yeah.
wellness and the self-care and you just think it's almost freeing, I guess, in
Mm.
a way, rather than like obviously what we were like when we were growing up. And like you say, it is a reflection of other people. If people treat you the way that they, if they're horrible to you or anything like that, actually that's a reflection on them and it's representing how they feel about themselves rather than actually a thing about you. And you've got to be in that power to be like, actually, no, that's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But you've got to get to that point to be in
Yeah.
that power. But yes, obviously, I want to touch on your sexuality and how that's played a role actually in boosting your confidence.
God, where do I start? It's been a huge thing. So I only came out like 2 years ago now. So I'm now 29. I only came out at 27.
Wow.
Uh, 27 or 28. It wasn't long ago, about 2 years. But I kind of knew for the last 12 years. I
Mm,
was just kind of pushing it down, and I I think I was so scared to like admit it to myself, let alone anybody else. But I'd be in a relationship with men. Um, but something just didn't feel right. Something didn't click. But
mm,
I just thought, oh, well, that's just how relationships are. Like, it's just, it's just what it's like. Um, but since coming out and realizing who I am and stepping into that fully, like, don't get me wrong, it's taken time. Like, when I first came out, I'd go down the street because I was with someone at the time. And I'd go down the street and I would be terrified of like holding her hand because I'd be like, oh my God, everyone's looking at us. No one gives
mm.
a shit. No one was looking at me at all. Like it was fine. But I
Yeah.
felt like everyone was. And it was almost like going back to teenage Charlotte of being like, oh God, I need to hide, I need to shrink. But now I've kind of fully accepted it and fully embraced who I am. Now I'm like, this makes so much sense. And not only is it made like a lot of my childhood make sense and a lot of my thought process and a lot of my previous relationships make sense.
Mm,
But it's also finally allowed me to be more than happy with who I am and like step fully into that and be like, you know what, actually, this is who I am. Yes, I'm
mm.
a bit woo-woo. Yes, I love all the spiritual stuff. Yeah, all right, I'm a bit witchy at times. Like I love all the witchy stuff. I will go and burn letters under the moon and write letters and I will do all of that. And before I wouldn't have even spoke about that because I'd be like, what if someone thinks it's weird? Whereas
Mm,
now, like, I want people to know, like, my sexuality. I want people to know this is what I'm into because I'm like, okay, well, it's going to attract, like you said earlier, it's going to attract my tribe and it's going to repel the people that aren't for me. And that's okay. And I think it gives you that confidence when you fully step into who you are, whether it's sexuality or whether it's just your hobbies and interests. Like when you fully accept who you are and step into that, it gives you that power back to be
mm.
like, okay, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Like you're not there to be liked by everyone.
Yeah.
You need to fall in love with yourself and accept yourself, like rather than worrying about what every single person is thinking about you, which is so much easier said than done. Because trust me, I was the person that was the complete opposite. But yeah, like it feels like two separate versions of me. Like the
Okay.
girl I was and the woman I am now, it feels completely different, and it's so freeing. Like it's unreal how freeing it is. You can probably hear it in my voice. Though I sound like I smoke 60 a day right now, but yeah, it is. It's the most freeing feeling to like fully step into who you are and own that and be okay with that as well. Which is it's taken work, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a an overnight thing, but oh my God, it was so worth it. Like so worth it.
And I can feel like that empowerment in your voice, like
Mm.
just listening to you. Like I literally just had goosebumps like after you like saying that because it like you said, it's the Charlotte before and the Charlotte. I don't know the Charlotte before. I've never met the Charlotte before, but the Charlotte after is just a powerhouse. And I've met Charlotte a couple of times actually in person. And like you are literally like probably my tribe, like type of people because we love so many of the same things. And honestly, like the way you are now, and like you said, like how free you feel, you can see that in you, and like you can sense that in you. Like obviously, when I met you as a person, like in real life, and you can you can feel that. And obviously, you've spoken to me before about like obviously your sexuality and things like that. Um, and I think it is still. I would say it's probably still a taboo in some sense when it comes to obviously your sexuality, whether you're gay, straight, bi, whatever, anything like that, which I don't feel like it should be a thing because it shouldn't really matter whether you're gay, you're straight, you're black, you're white, like, it really doesn't matter anything like that because that's just external things. Like that's not who you are. Like, yeah, it's a part of you, but it's not who you are as a person. And I think sometimes people just look through things in like, is it like rose tinted glasses? And it's like, actually, you need to see further from like further than your nose to actually think, no, this person is like amazing. Like, she's incredible. Like, that's not a thing. And I think obviously where you said about obviously it's taken you like 12 years and I'm sure so many people have had the exact same situations where it's probably taken them years to think actually am I going to be accepted for who I am or am I basically going to be thrown out in like the bin or whatever. It's like that sounds a bit bad but that's the point I'm
And
trying to
it's
make
so
like
true. Like the thing is as well, like I think it, although I was kind of things didn't make sense in terms of like there was just something missing with relationships.
mm,
I didn't know I was gay. Like I didn't know that's what it was because I was surrounded by straight couples. Like
yeah,
everywhere. Like whether it was TV, whether it was films, whether it was musical theatre shows, like whether it was my family, I was surrounded by straight people. So you almost internalize it and be like, oh, okay, well, this is the norm then. Man and woman, that's the norm.
mm.
Like, it's only when I was then exposed to it, I was like, oh, okay. And even then, I was still battling with it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the day that I admitted it to myself and was like, okay, this is who I am, I threw up. I, I threw up because I was like,
Oh
it was almost like this thing of like everything was just, oh my God, everything
yeah,
makes sense. And it it was such a battle because when you're at school, like the insults that you get in the playground is, oh, that's gay. And then you internalize that. It's like, oh, well,
yeah,
being gay is a bad thing then. Okay, right, well, it can't be that. Let me push that down. Like, I remember being so confused and so like something's wrong with me when I was at college. I went to the doctors. I went to the doctors about it and was like, I don't know what's going on, but something's wrong. And she gave me, I remember, I'll never forget it. She gave me this leaflet that was like about obviously being gay. And I was like, I'm not gay. And like I took the leaflet home and I hid it because I was like, oh my God, what if my mum finds it?
mm,
Um, and it's just those little things when you're like, everything now makes sense, but also it takes so long for you to accept that in yourself because all
yeah,
you see is either straight couples or the phrase gay being used as a negative thing and being used as an insult. And like I went to see a show at the weekend. So I did like a solo trip at the weekend, which is something I never would have done. Like
nice.
we were talking about confidence and stuff earlier. There's so many things now where I've like gone to social meetups on my own where I don't know a soul. Gone to London like on my own this weekend. Absolutely loved it. Went to the theatre on my own. Went for breakfast on my own. Like wasn't worried of like what people think. But I went to see this show, Why Am I So Single? Which Yeah, oh my God, it's the most incredible show in the world. So funny, but also the message behind it is also really important. And there was this one song that the main guy sang, and he was talking about how like he really struggled to accept it because of all the negative stuff that's like thrown
Mm.
around. And I've never felt so seen in my life. And I was like, oh my God, this is me. So I think now, like just going back to what we were saying earlier, now things are more spoken about, but it's so hard to admit who you are to yourself, let alone to everyone else. And like even now, I'll get comments of like, yeah, but you don't look gay. I'm like,
What are you
just
supposed to
because
look
I'm
like?
feminine, like I don't need to look a certain way to be gay, but you still have to battle with that yourself. And it's like, yeah, particularly
Oh,
men, they're like, oh, but you don't look gay.
mm,
Have you just not had the right? And I'm like, oh, stop, please. So yeah, it is a
exactly.
constant battle, especially when you're more feminine presenting, because there's not much representation out there for gay girls that do look more feminine. Uh,
Mm.
anyway, I'm rambling, so I'll be quiet.
No, honestly, no, it's really nice to hear that perspective as well, because obviously I'm a straight woman. I'm in a heterosexual relationship. So, obviously I know people that are gay anyway. So, but it's nice to hear that perspective from someone because the chances are is that if there are people obviously listening to this story, the chances are is they've probably been through the exact same thing or they are currently battling through the exact same thing. And it's nice to have that awareness around it and to speak about it because it can help someone. And I think, like you said, like even when you said, said you threw up on that day, that must have felt though so like this huge release. Like it must
Yeah,
have been literally like I've just thrown up like 12 years worth of
yeah,
this huge battle that I've had with myself. And it's like, okay,
yeah.
like this is who I am. And like to step into your true authentic self is so empowering and it's just incredible, like the feeling that you get. And it's almost like because like for me, there's so many things that I love, but I was always like, well, I don't want to show that sort of thing because what about if people like judge me or like, say something horrible about me or because like things like singing, absolutely love singing. Like it's one of my favorite things to do. So what am I gonna go and do? I've literally spoken to a singing teacher like not that long ago and I'm gonna go and start singing again because I'm
Oh,
like
mate,
I want to do the things that make me happy and
yeah,
that like are for me, not for someone else.
100%.
So yeah, I love the fact that I just said that out loud.
That's it now. It's locked in. It's locked in. But that's the thing as well, though. Like you, if you start doing things that are authentically you, your vibration is so much higher. So
Yeah,
therefore, you're going to attract the right people anyway. If your vibration is like down here, you're going to attract people that are down here,
yeah,
like on a vibration level. Whereas if you're doing things that are fully you, that you enjoy no matter what, well, then surprise, surprise, you're going to attract the people on the same level as you and on the same vibration as
yeah,
you.
exactly that.
And then
And
that,
even your
like
life
if,
as well.
sorry.
Yeah, like so I was gonna say, like even your life in general as well, like good things are then gonna come to you. Like, if you start sitting, I don't know, if your like vibration is so much lower than, average or anything like that, and you're horrible to yourself, or you hide obviously your what the things that you actually love because of other people's things, like you are going to attract more negative things into your life rather than actually attracting the most like positive things in your life. Which I am like a huge advocate of. If you're not happy with something in your life, you have the power yourself to change it. And
Yeah.
I always stand by that, you are in your own power, you have your own control. And when you start believing in yourself and you start going, actually, yeah, these are the things I like and like sod other people. And I think I've had this huge lesson as well recently where I have been a huge people pleaser, a really big people pleaser. And it got to
Yeah.
the point where actually someone didn't like the decisions I made. And it got to me. And then I was like, well, why am I letting this get to me? Because actually, I am going to be doing the things that I want to be doing and sod everyone else because they're not part of my life. I am with myself the longest in life. I have got to do the things that make me happy and that like I love to do. So sod them. And that was a huge lesson for me that actually people pleasing is probably one of the most annoying things that you can have. But if you're not being your true authentic self, you are basically a huge people pleaser. So, oh
Yeah.
my God, my doorbell's just gone.
100%.
Hope you can
Oh
hear.
no,
It's fine. It's
was
all
it?
good. It's fine.
Oh,
We'll go. We'll keep going. They'll wait. But yeah, so I absolutely love this. So obviously you now have your own business and you are a self-concept and identity coach. So for people that obviously you briefly touched on this at the beginning, but for people that don't actually know what this is or what this actually means, like, do you want to just tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So you've probably heard it called like either self-identity, self-concept, um, like living as your true authentic self. They're kind of all very kind of similar things. But the reason that I went with self-concept and identity coach is because the work that I do with clients and the work that I've done with myself is all about imagine you've kind of got this backpack on that you
Mm,
wear like every single day. And inside that backpack is like stuffed full to the brim of like beliefs that you were given as a child, like the core beliefs that you have. So those core beliefs are pretty solid by the time you're 7. Like
yep.
you start soaking stuff up when you're kind of 3 anyway, which
Huge
3 is
sponge.
so young, like it's mad. But by the time you're 7, those core beliefs are like solid and they're in there. So they're at the bottom of your backpack that you've probably not even thought about. And then you've got beliefs from school, beliefs from college, beliefs from uni, if you went to uni, like every single interaction you've had, there's then a belief that's put in there. And how many of those beliefs are actually yours? Like when you start to unpack,
Mm,
actually, a good percentage of them are probably not even yours, probably not even things that right now as an adult you identify with. So part of the work that I do is kind of unpacking that backpack and understanding, right, who are you? What are your values? Because it's quite funny, like when I work with clients, the first thing we look at is okay, what actually are your values? And 9 times out of 10, people go, I don't know. Don't know what my values are. Or they might reel off a couple of things, and I'm like, okay, why is that important to you?
mm,
And why is that important? And it's that deeper level that we don't always go to. So there's that side of things, and then we start looking at your identity in terms of, actually, who do you want to be? Who are you at your core? What is it that you're hiding? And we really start to build and craft that person, but it's not about becoming a new you. It's about coming home to you.
mm.
And almost like the way I kind of see it when I talk about it is you've probably seen those pictures of like statues with somebody else inside them and then they're like chipping away at it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I view self-concept and identity work is okay, what do we need to chip away in terms of limiting beliefs, in terms of assumptions you have about the world, the lens that you view the world through? What is it that we need to chip away in order to actually come back to who we are and start living authentically and then being able to actually you know, tick off the things that you've got on your vision board. Like for example, I've got a client at the moment who has an absolute dream of being able to write a children's book. And I know she can do it. She can absolutely do it. But there's a block there in terms of that self-belief. Well, what if I write what I write down isn't good enough? What
Mm,
if people think this? What if people think that? And it's like, okay, so that's what we need to work on right now in order for you to then be able to tick that off your vision board and move forward with it. So it's about uncovering those blocks behind things. Um, like if you're the sort of person who, and I, like I said, I went back to Slimming World 9 times and I constantly tried to lose weight, like, but I'd fall off the wagon. So it's, especially when we're coming into a new year, it's not just about, okay, well, I'm going to try and do this, and this year. Okay, cool, but like what stopped you before? Because if you're constantly
mm.
resetting the same goals year in, year out, not only is it frustrating, but you're setting yourself up for failure because there's something that, you haven't quite got in place in order for you to be
Yep.
able to then meet that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. That's why like things like New Year's resolutions and stuff don't really work because people fall off the wagon by the time it's like day 16 because they've
Yeah,
not tackled it like internally. It's just been the whole like I'm going to do this and it's like great, amazing, but there's something that's holding you back from actually achieving that. And
100%.
yeah, that's what I love about that. And that I love, do you know what? The whole thing about when you're a child and that you're a huge sponge until the age of 7. Do you know what I
Yeah.
find fascinating about that is the fact that I don't remember anything before I was 7 years old.
Ah,
But the beliefs I have of myself, I remember. And I find that really fascinating because the earliest memory I have of myself is when I was 7 years old and I went to the zoo on my birthday. And that's the earliest memory I have. But everything else of what I believe about myself, well, did believe about myself, because obviously I've done this work, I remembered, which is fascinating in the sense that how you can remember that, but you can't actually remember anything to do with your childhood. Yeah,
It's this complete blueprint of who we are and what that means to the world, and learning to unpack that. It's not easy. Like it's
it's
really not.
hard.
Yeah. And when we do a lot of work around meeting, so we do a lot of like meeting your ego, meeting your shadow, that kind of thing, but also a lot of the thing around inner child healing, like meeting that inner child is not easy, like at all. But when you heal that inner child, rather than just putting a plaster over things, you actually heal it and the wound then heals, everything starts to make sense. And then things start to change. Then you start to act different and you start to approach things differently because you're not constantly trying to meet the needs of the inner child that you were. And you don't have to have had a really bad childhood in order to have childhood wounds. Like all of us pretty much have childhood wounds that,
Yeah.
because of the way society is, we haven't then met them and started to work in closing those wounds.
Yeah, 100% literally because like I think I wrote on my stories yesterday actually about so like obviously my clients are CEOs and like business owners, and I think I put on there something about like 99% of business owners won't do this work because it's so uncomfortable. And that's the thing, like, it's not an easy ride. It is probably one of the most uncomfortable things that you can actually do as a person. And, you're going to cry. It's going to be a horrible feeling, anything like that. But once you actually get onto the other side, and it's not just something you do once and you're like, oh, this is amazing. I've done it. It's over with and I'm going to carry on. No, you are constantly doing this work because so many times, like when you go to do something, and it's obviously like when you have this fear as well that you're going to do something, something always comes up and it's always going to block you. And it's just the constant work that you have to do with yourself. And I think that's the thing, like a lot of people won't do this work purely because of how uncomfortable it is. And they're just like, no, it's fine. I can, brush past it and I'll do something else. But actually, you're then stuck at this wall and you've blocked yourself from actually moving further on in life. Um, and I was going to make another point and I can't remember what I was going to say now. But
I
um,
just when
so
when
what
you
did
were
you say?
saying that, then like they're so true that it is a constant work in progress, and that's not a bad thing. Like when I went to London at the weekend, I was like, right, I'm going to film in public. It's going to be so busy, but I'm doing it.
Yeah,
When I went to get my phone out, oh my God, the feelings. I was like, I can't do this. There's too many people. What if they think this? What if they think that? But the difference now is that you go, okay, right, what am I actually worried about here?
mm,
And you start to kind of talk yourself through a certain process, the process that we go through with clients, and you take things out of your toolbox, if you like, that you kind of carry in your back pocket. And then I was able to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
yeah,
This isn't as scary as I thought. Whereas before, I would have let fear stop me and then not done it.
yeah,
So there's always going to be things that feel, scary. There's always going to be things that push us out our comfort zone. But you want to be in that position where you're constantly pushing that comfort zone, because if not, like you say, you do the work and then you get stagnant. But then where's the rest of the growth?
yeah.
Like it's not just about that one time learning, it's that constant.
You got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's not something that you just only do once and then you're like, I'm healed. This is
Yeah, that's
amazing.
it done now.
Like
See
this is great. And it's like, no, actually, there's going to be other things that are going to keep coming up for you. And that's having that awareness as well. Like you were just saying there, it's about having that awareness of the things that, what's actually stopping me from doing this. Right, okay, it's this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And I think when you start doing this work and start doing this whole identity work, the fact is that when you do it more and more, you become so much more self-aware about yourself that you are just like, okay, this is stopping me from doing this. Why is it stopping me from doing this? Okay, I need to do this to move forward. I mean, I had the same thing as you back in June last year. I I filmed myself in the middle of Regent Street. Literally, like, the bit in the middle
Yeah.
where it has like obviously you got the roads and then you've got the the path bit in the middle. I literally filmed myself in the middle of Regent Street, and my other half, James, was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Okay." And that was it. I just started filming myself in the middle of Regent Street, which is probably one of the most busiest streets in London. And did I give a shit? No, not really, because I wanted content for a start,
Yeah.
for Instagram, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. But obviously, like where you were talking about other people's beliefs as well. Um, oh my God, did that literally just say Dobby the
Yes, it says Dobby is a free elf, and then
Oh,
it's
I
got.
love that. I'm literally on the last book of Harry Potter, so I'm just like I've gone into the whole oh my God, Harry Potter. Um, um, which is so funny as well because I spoke about this actually on my stories, and I started the last book and I opened the first page, and what was inside of it? A leaflet for weight loss, and I was just like,
I
you
saw that on your stories today, and I was
you
like, oh my
couldn't make
God.
it up. It was so funny. Um, but yeah, sorry, I just digressed then and started
That's
talking
all
about Harry Potter. Let's just turn this
right.
podcast into a Harry Potter thing instead. Um, but no, I was going to say about the whole thing of other people's beliefs, and obviously like pretty much everyone will have someone else's beliefs that have been put on them. And I always find that the most common ones always comes down to money. And it's
Yes.
always like money doesn't grow on trees. Like that has always been the main one that I've had from my parents.
Yeah.
Always, all the time. And it's like, actually, no, if you step into this hole and money is abundant, you're gonna completely like dismantle that belief of what everyone else thinks. And you don't need to hard graft and everything like that because money doesn't grow on trees. Like it, it, all that sort of stuff does make me laugh actually in retrospect because obviously, we've done that self-awareness work and things like that. And it's actually like, yeah, it's
Mm.
just things that are like a generational thing, I think, as well, where a lot of these beliefs come from. So
And you
yeah,
start
but no.
so you start to see like the more you do this work as well, you start to hear certain conversations that people have, and you're like, interesting, okay, like
Mm,
the whole concept of like, oh, well, it's Monday, so it's going to be a bad day.
yeah.
Well,
Who
you're going
says?
into it. Like, if you're going into a day thinking it's going to be bad, well, then surprise, surprise, it will be
Gonna
because
be, yeah.
your brain is then looking for evidence to make sure that you're right.
Yeah.
Like you have the option whether you go, it's Monday, let's go, let's send it, or you go, oh, it's Monday, like, ugh.
Yeah.
Or like the whole thing of, well, I'm not meant to enjoy work. Work's work, isn't it?
Mm,
So you have the power to choose, what you do as a job, whether that's working for yourself, whether that's being employed. If you're in a job that you absolutely hate, you don't have to stay in that. But
yep.
sometimes, and some people aren't going to like this, but sometimes people like to be victim and they like
Yes.
to sit in that, yeah, woe is me. Because when someone turns around and goes, yes, but you've got the choice, they don't like that.
Yep.
And you don't always see that until you do this kind of work. And then it's almost like you walk around with these glasses on that are like a little bit foggy, and then you do this work and those glasses aren't foggy anymore.
Mm,
And you're like, oh, I see it for what it is now. Like this makes so much sense, and you can create your own reality.
yep.
And the 3D is the 3D, and you can create, what you see in front of you, which is a
Yeah.
bit woo-woo, but that's
No, no,
what
no.
I anyway.
Not at all. Like I've said that before, like where I previously said that you have the power to change your situation. And I've said that to a few people, and to say I've had some very weird looks at me where it's like, no, you don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. And I'm referring to the fact is because I work part-time in a supermarket, and I have said that to a few people who work in said supermarket,
Yeah.
and the response I got from it was not very good responses because I'm just like, you can change that situation. You don't have to come here and keep moaning about your daily life. Actually, you have the power to change it. Like, we don't have to be moaning myrtles all the time.
I got a reference. There we go.
Literally. Um, so yeah, that's probably a bit blunt and, straight to the point, but it, if you want your life to be this most extraordinary thing, you've got to change it. And
Yeah.
only you can change that. No one else can do it for you. Um, so yeah, I sounded like my mum then. Um, so obviously being your authentic self is something that you teach. So, what are the things that you can do now in life that you couldn't do before since you stepped into your own authentic self? Obviously, you touched on it a little bit earlier that you went to London and did like a solo trip, but what else can you do that you could never have done before?
I think it's just, I mean, there's so like the ripple effect that it has across the whole of your life. Like,
Mm,
so I also work, so I work full time and then do this on the side at the moment. But I'm in a management position within my current role. And having the position that I have now, if I didn't have that confidence to be my authentic self, I would walk into really challenging conversations that I have to have and constantly second guess. Like, am I
mm,
saying the right thing? You know, is, am I okay to say this? Like, I would constantly second guess it rather than walking into that room being like, okay, no, this is the conversation that needs to happen. Or there's a lot of presenting that I have to do to very senior members of so I work for the NHS. So for the trust that I work for, there's a lot of presenting that I had to do for senior members of staff. And I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like I wouldn't have been able to walk into that presentation and go, no, I deserve to be in this room and I deserve to, talk to them about what I'm presenting about. Because actually I'm the expert in this area that I'm presenting about. That's why they've asked me to present it. Like there's times where I have to walk in and present in front of a room of 60 doctors. I would have never have been able to do that before because people are like, oh, but it's a room of 60 doctors. And I'm like, yeah, but they're just human. Like it's fine. And
yeah.
I know my worth. And also like dating is another thing. Like when you're authentically who you are, you don't stand for certain behaviors. You know your worth. And when someone demonstrates a certain behavior, whether that's someone that you're in a relationship with or whether that's someone you're dating, like you learn to stand in your power and you go, number one, that's a reflection on them, not me. Number two, I do not deserve to be treated like that. And I won't deserve to be like, I'm not going to be treated like that. And that could be something huge, like if someone cheats, or it could be like, I don't know, let's say you're talking to someone on a dating app, which let's not go on to dating apps because they are atrocious. You're talking to someone on a dating app, three guesses what I'm doing. And like, I don't know, let's say the communication is atrocious and
Mm,
they're like hot and cold constantly. The old version of me would have chased that because I'm like, I need that validation.
yeah.
This version of me goes, no,
Mm,
like, no, I'm all right, I'm good. And so there's that side of things, but there's also like the way I dress. Before, I would dress for what I think other people would like on me. Whereas now I will dress for how I want to dress.
mm,
And, whether that's something that typically I should or shouldn't wear because of my body type, like if I feel good in it, I will wear it. And that's something I would never have done before because I would have wore things that like, how can I dress to make me look smaller
mm,
rather than how can I dress that makes me feel confident, that makes me feel put together, makes me feel a certain type of way. So that's, there's that side of things. And then obviously, like I said earlier, like going on the solo trips, I went to a group a few weeks ago that I didn't know a single person there, not a single person. But I just walked in and was like, "Hi, is this such and such a group?" And then 1:30 in the morning, I got home. Like, it was the best night. And then I've gone back since and made friends there, and I never would have done that. And I
mm,
sometimes you don't realize how far you've come until like my brother, who's quite confident. I was talking to him about it, and he was like, "That's a bit ballsy, isn't it?" And I was like, "Is it? Is it ballsy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I could
mm,
never do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're quite confident, aren't you?" And it's not until other people go, "I couldn't do that," that you kind of stop
mm.
sometimes and go, "Oh my God, I've come so far." So there's a lot that I now do that I never would have done, but I think they're probably the main things that kind of trickle through. And you learn to not take everybody else's stuff as well. Like if someone reacts in a certain type of way, you kind of learn to be like, okay, that's your shadow work.
Yep.
That's the stuff that you've not worked on. That's not a reflection on me. Um, Especially with like family members, if they got a certain generational cycle that's kept going like this,
Yep.
and you're the generational cycle breaker, sometimes that can cause a bit of, friction. But you kind of learn to be like, okay, well, that's the trauma with a little t that you've not worked through. Um, that's not a reflection on, what I've said or what I have or haven't done.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
hopefully that makes sense. I've kind of
yeah, no, it makes
gone
perfect
everywhere.
sense. It's almost like you've you've stepped into that self-assurance of yourself and you've set yourself those strong boundaries and you're like, actually, no, I'm worth so much more than this. Like, I don't need to be treated the way that, I used to be treated.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a powerful thing in itself is having those strong boundaries that, a lot of people don't have and they end up being walked all over. And it's just like, no, set those strong boundaries in place, stick to them, and you will feel so much better about yourself. And I think I've had a lot of that um recently in terms of a bit like I don't really want to say it actually in case anyone ends up listening to us, but it's just how I've felt recently. The Christmas period has brought a lot of stuff up for me, um, that I'm just like, actually, I need to set those boundaries in place and be like, this is what I need to be doing. Which is a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing to have those boundaries set. Um, and obviously in terms of like obviously I'm a stylist. So in terms of like the clothes situation, I obviously I've had a lot of clients before where they're like, or even hate actually that I've had online where people have sent me comments and they're just like, oh, people should wear what they want. Yes, amazing. They should wear what they want. But I've had a lot of people that have come to me where they're like, I want to learn how to dress for my body shape so I can then wear what I want and feel confident to wear what I want.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in terms of wearing what you want and then having the confidence to wear what you want.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is such a fine line in that. Um, and yeah, I do think it's amazing in that fact. And also the fact is what you said about your brother,
Mm.
like he's confident. I think there's such a perspective when it comes to men that they put on this whole thing that they're like, I'm really confident, like
Yeah.
I'm good at what I do, but actually there's an internal struggle somewhere there
Mm.
because they feel like, again, society, that they have to be this type of person to be seen as a man
Yeah.
rather than like, oh, I can actually do this because they didn't feel like they could be like that. So yeah, I do find that quite interesting as well. And the fact that you were just like, I thought my brother was really confident and he was like, I
Yeah.
can't do this. But actually, the chances are is it's probably a front and
Yeah.
that there's a difference between putting on the front of being confident and actually being confident. Uh,
100%. It's like that outside confidence versus that inner knowing.
yes.
I think, like you say, a lot of us put this outside confidence on of like performance, like especially if we're performing arts kids, because we're used to playing that character of like, right, performance time, let's go. And that's me. And in like, if I go into an interview, like at work, when like I recently had an interview for the job I've got now, and I do go in of like, right, performance slides, let's go.
Mm,
But having that inner confidence where no matter what happens, there's still that inner knowing of like, no, I am enough as I am. And actually, these are my boundaries and this is what I expect from XYZ. Having that inner confidence and that inner knowing is that difference. Is that I think for me that was the missing piece when I was younger and before I did all this work was like, yeah, I could put a front on sometimes,
mm,
but then I'd go home and feel horrendous.
yeah.
And it's getting that inner knowing and that inner confidence like solid is that's the game changer that then allows you to be who you are authentically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. So for anyone who is listening right now and is struggling with their confidence, what top tips would you give them?
Mm. Probably should have thought about this, shouldn't I? What top tips would I give someone who's struggling with their confidence? I think the first thing is really getting to grips and understanding like what it is that you're struggling with when it comes to confidence, because confidence is such a broad topic and such a broad term. You can feel confident in, let's say, your day job because you know it and you're solid in it, but
Mm,
then you might not feel very confident in the bedroom, for example, because actually body-wise you don't feel confident. So I think for me, like get your journal out. Like I love journaling. Like get your journal out and really just whatever comes to your mind in terms of, right, what areas is it that I actually want to increase my confidence in? What does that actually look like? Because I think I was talking about this yesterday on Instagram. Like you can say that you want to feel a certain type of way and you want to feel more confident. Okay, great, brilliant. But what does that actually look like for you?
Mm,
because confident for person A will feel confident, that will feel different to what confidence feels like for person B. So I think get really clear on the areas that you feel confident in and those areas that you don't feel confident in. So you've actually got an understanding of, where things need to change. And then I'd probably say like the first step is understanding your beliefs and what it is that you actually believe. So again, like get your journal out. What are my current beliefs right now? Maybe you want to put that in one column, and in another column you might want to put like, do I actually identify with them anymore?
mm,
Or are they something that was put on me? Like, I know when I was doing this work, one of my beliefs was that, I'm not good enough as the size that I am, and therefore, in order to be fit to be liked and to fit in, I need to be a certain size. And when I really started to dig deep on that, I was like, where has that actually come from? Like, has
mm.
that come from me? Is that something that I know? Or is that something that's been put on me by society? Um, so I'd probably say those two things. And then lastly, if you really struggle to kind of not know where to start when you look at like when you start writing on your journal and you just kind of have a pen and it stops, try and take, even if it's just 5 minutes, to just close your eyes and just ask your higher self. And if you're a spiritual person, you'll get this. If you're not, like just try it because you might be surprised. But just ask your higher self, what is it that I need to hear right now? What is it that needs to come through me right now? And then go and do your journaling. Because you'll find that things come through a lot easier as well. But they're probably, yeah, so figure out, what does confidence actually look like to you? Where are you confident right now? Where are you not? What are your current beliefs and do they align with you? And then asking your higher self, what is it that I need to hear right now? And see what comes through for you.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, those are definitely, I would say, are definitely the core things, and probably the first step as well
Yeah,
into boosting your confidence is obviously unpacking the whole, like you said earlier with the rucksack,
yeah,
unpacking your whole like limiting beliefs and the things that you do believe in, and actually uncovering the beliefs that actually are yours and not
yeah.
someone else's. So yeah, absolutely love that. And I've loved this episode and just having a general chat with you. Like, it's been amazing learning about your story and just you seem so self-assured and you're just like you're in your power and we love that so much. So if anyone wants to come and find you or follow you or work with you, like where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm most active over on Instagram, which is just at Collective Health UK. Everything is on there in terms of our membership, but you can always send me a little DM. I don't bite, I promise. So if there is any questions you've got off the back of this episode, then feel free to pop me a DM over on Collective Health UK, and we can have a chat. But thank you. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed, like, the time has gone so quick.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, it's been amazing to just chat through stuff and just, yeah, it's been great. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here, and I'll put your Instagram handle as well in the show notes and in the description box in YouTube so people can come and find you. But yeah, this has been amazing, and I really hope that whoever's listening has really enjoyed it as well. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on here and really appreciate it. So yeah, take care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.